Hey everybody, welcome to Cash Sports, and welcome to another edition where we're going to be covering the Golden State Warriors versus the Memphis Grizzlies in round 2 of the NBA playoffs. So in this series, the Golden State Warriors are projected to be the favorites in this series, with the odds being negative 565, with the Warriors as a favorite in this series. Even despite with the Memphis Grizzlies being the number 2 seed in the Western Conference Finals, and playing like one of the best teams in the entire league. They're a young, ambitious team with Ja Morant leading at the helm, and with the addition of Jaren Jackson and Desmond Bane, Brandon Clark. All these players are playing phenomenal basketball, and they just got out of a very tough series against the Minnesota Timberwolves in high fashion. And there were a couple games in that last series between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Minnesota Timberwolves where the Memphis Grizzlies had to come back in numerous games against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, with that fact alone, gives me cause to pause with the Memphis Grizzlies, even though they're a very good team. If the Minnesota Timberwolves were disciplined enough to really stick to their guns and play disciplined basketball, they could have won those games and could have won those series. So, I don't see the Memphis Grizzlies taking this series, despite how good they've been throughout this whole year. But I'm going to go with the experience. I'm going to go with the championship experience that the Warriors have had. And the Warriors haven't been in this position in quite some time, given the fact that since Kevin Durant has left, and there's been a substantial amount of injuries as of late, the Warriors are back in the running. They can really come out on top as winning another championship in this year's NBA playoffs. And so I'm going to stick to that. I don't see the Warriors getting knocked out, at least not in this series. What you think?
I think it's going to be a tough series. Both teams have a good chance of winning, to be honest. I do have also Warriors winning it, but I think Grizzlies will put quite a fight and will go to Game 7 probably.
Well, it'll definitely be a fight for sure. I mean, but in this Game 1, it went down to the wire. And Ja Morant had a 30-point game. Jaren Jackson couldn't miss from the three-point line, but they were getting out-rebounded. And they still lost. And they still lost even though Draymond Green got ejected with a flagrant 2 foul in the game. So a lot of these things I have cause to pause, but it came down to a last-second play with Ja Morant attempting a layup for the game winner, and it simply just didn't fall. But there were a lot of other factors in this game also, and in this series. They can't be letting 3 of these players go off in this series. I mean, you have Jordan Poole, Stephen Curry, and Clay. At this point, it's not even the Splash Brothers anymore between Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. All 3 of them. Because Jordan Poole can knock him down just like anybody. And just watching his game, he just seems a little bit more athletic than Steph Curry in the way he plays.
I agree, but I think it will remain Splash Bros. But the thing is, instead of Clay, it's gonna be Poole. Because Clay played terrible this game. He was bad. He had like 30% field goal. He missed all his free throws. I think for a Splash Bro, that's pretty bad stats, wouldn't you say?
I mean, but you can't say Jordan Poole is gonna just come in and replace somebody like Klay Thompson, who's there winning all the championships with the Golden State Warriors. We're talking about a guy who can defend. We're talking about a guy who's been there with Steph Curry, who, first off, let me start off with this right here. It's because I gotta educate you on this, my brother. Steph Curry is the number 1 shooter of all time, and then after that,
3-point shooter.
3-point shooter. Shooter, period, bro. Come on, now you really gonna say there's anybody else that's a better shooter than Steph Curry? He's the greatest shooter. There's no just 3-point. He's the greatest shooter of all time. Get that shooter. Okay. Point blank, period. There's nothing to be said about that. So, and then after him was Klay Thompson. And as far as who's the best shooters of all time. Point blank period. And that's not going to be taken away from Clay, at least for a very long time. So Jordan Poole, right now, he's the young blood. He's fresh in, and we're giving him a lot of acknowledgement from what we've seen and how he came to be since he's entered the league. But it's all three of them and win a championship. It's going to be all three of them. Not just Steph, not just Clay, and not just Jordan Poole on his lonesome. And also with Draymond Green, even though despite all the nonsense that he can be involved in sometimes here and there, but for the most part, Draymond Green is still the Energizer Bunny for this team. He is the force within the Golden State Warriors. He plays big man ball at his size. He's an undersized big man who plays down low. He defends. I mean, we've seen that in the last series against Jokic. Even though Jokic was able to put up some numbers, Draymond Green was able to stifle him in points when it mattered, and that's all you need from somebody like Draymond. And especially Draymond is still an exceptional passer. He spreads the floor, and he gets everybody involved. Something like that is not appreciated as much as it should be. And so that's why, in large part, I just see Warriors taking this series, and I got them winning this series in 6 games.
Okay, bro. It's not going to be in 6. It's going to be in 7. Like I said, Grizzlies will put up a big fight. Jaren Jackson and Ja, they all had more points than any of the players on the Warriors. In the end, they lost by 1 point. Like, bro, you're saying like they'll get absolutely swept when the difference in the end was only by 1 point.
All right, but it was by 1 point. Other players didn't shoot well. Even Steph Curry, to an extent, and Klay Thompson didn't shoot well from that game. And like you said, they won by 1 point. I'm not worried about how players play in one game. I'm going to give it to you down flat. Playing one game well doesn't solidify you in this series. You have to play that well 4 times in this series. That's the part that we have to take into effect when it comes to playoff basketball. You can have 50 in one game and then score 6 the next. And then that 6 is going to matter more because that was the most recent game, and then that's the game you've lost because you didn't make up for the points as much as you did in the last game. And that's just theorizing it. That's just putting an example. So Jaren Jackson's points, even though he scored 30, John Morant had scored 30, guess what? It doesn't matter because they lost. You know what I'm saying? So they can have a great game. They need to have a great game. Actually, with John Morant had a great game. Jaren Jackson had a great game. Desmond Bane, even though he had a really good series and he was the best player from the Memphis Grizzlies last series, he needs to show up with the same energy that he did in the last series against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Plain and simple. And so they're not going to win it without Desmond Bane pulling his part, because we need to see that type of player in order for them to even have a chance against the Warriors. Because like I stated before, and like what Steph Curry has said in his recent press conference, the Warriors have championship DNA, which means they're not going to be an easy team to just knock off. A young team like Memphis Grizzlies, you need a lot of experience, you need disciplined coaching, you need coaching adjustments, and simply you just need the grit and the competitiveness to beat a team like the Warriors. There's not a lot of teams that can do that. Now, do I say the Grizzlies don't have that? I wouldn't go as far as to say the Grizzlies don't have the ability or even the chance to beat the Warriors. But right now, I just see the Warriors having a bit of a nudge over the Memphis Grizzlies. And that's why I said they win in Game 6.
Like I previously said, it's going to be a great series. Both teams will put up a great fight. And it's going to go to Game 7. With Warriors beating the Grizzlies.
So you got the Warriors beating the Grizzlies?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see it. I could see it going Game 7 also. I wouldn't knock it, to be honest with you. But with that being said, if you say it's going to Game 7, Warriors already took game 1 in Memphis. So they already got one game in the books from the Warriors. I mean, the Warriors already have one in the books from the Grizzlies on their home turf. Because remember, the Grizzlies are the number 2 seed, which means they have home court advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that means the Grizzlies are going to have to take one of these games from the Chase Center. Now, that's probably more likely to happen than not, but the Chase Center is still a really tough place to play because they have one of, if not the loudest stadium in the league. And so it's going to be tough. It's definitely going to be a tough one for the Grizzlies because all those mistakes they made in the past against the Timberwolves, it's not going to fly with the Golden State Warriors. It's just simply not going to fly. They're going to have to come a little harder with this team. They can't make the same mistakes that they did with the Timberwolves because the Golden State Warriors are not the Timberwolves, plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, it's going to be a great series, and I can't wait to see how this one turns out. Thank you, and peace. If you enjoyed our episode, please drop a like, comment, and once again, subscribe to Cash Sports if you want more content. Peace, and see you guys later.